What's up, everybody? Welcome in on this Halloween Tuesday. I'm wearing my Beetlejuice shirt, which I said on another video that I recorded today, but isn't going to post till tomorrow. So everybody's going to laugh about me talking about today being Halloween when it's actually tomorrow, because so many other things happened today, including a hearing in this Delphi case for Richard Allen. A lot of people have had a ton of questions about this case. It has been kind of a very different and weird and strange process to get us here, especially with some of the recent filings by Richard Allen's attorneys, which, if it's true and they hold water, could really blow a hole in this case. Or if they are just wacky conspiracy theories, then he's going to end up where he pretty much was and being convicted by the media already in this case. But it seems like there's been a lot of impropriety happening in the background, or at least the appearance of impropriety. And the recent actions by the judge, the decisions made today, are not making anybody feel better about that, are not making anybody feel better about our judicial system, and about protecting the rights of the accused, somebody who sits presumed innocent. The crimes were heinous. The person who did it deserves the ultimate punishment. But we don't know who that person is legally yet. It hasn't been decided. It hasn't been determined. And our process is put in place in order to protect anybody from being railroaded, from being in a fight of David versus Goliath, where they don't even have a slingshot. And that's kind of what at least some people are arguing is happening right now. We're going to talk about a bunch of reports. We're going to look at a couple documents, and we're going to talk about whether it's appropriate what the judge is doing in this case. If it's not appropriate, then what are the remedies? Because that's one of the saddest parts about this potentially, is even if this creates some huge appellate issue, what's it really going to end up meaning or doing for Richard Allen in the end? And you may not be very happy to hear the answer. So hit that like button if you guys haven't already. We're also going to give away that orange and blue ugly shirt today. We have picked a winner from our post, people putting what, football teams they cheer for. So we're going to give that away eventually in this video, but we're going to focus in on Richard Allen, this process, and this hearing. So to give a little background and kind of bring us up to date on what we're going to talk about in today's video, and it's basically going to be partially a rant, partially an explanation. We're going to look at some documents, like I said, but really a problematic thing happening in society. We talk about the haves and the have-nots. We talk about how people like Girardi and Alec Murdoch get away with things that your average person could never get away with. A lot of people talk about the different in conviction rates for people that get court-appointed lawyers versus have money to hire, high-priced attorneys or private attorneys. And we've done podcasts on this. We've done studies on this. We've tried to fix it. It's an imperfect system, but we try to do our best in the system. And there are some really good public defenders. I'm not saying that all public defenders are bad or court-appointed lawyers are bad, because some private lawyers are court-appointed lawyers. So, just with that all to start, it's important to look at, would this be different if Richard Allen had a lot of money? Let's just start with that. If Richard Allen was wealthy, would this be different? What do you guys think? Let me know what you guys think in the comments. Because how we got here is Richard Allen had a couple lawyers who did an inordinate amount of work and time and digging and talking to people and traveling and interviewing people. They put their reputation on the line, filing the document explaining the connection to Odin in the correctional facility, how it could go way higher up than we could have ever imagined, the other people it could be, other legitimate suspects, problems in the investigation, disregarded information, reasonable doubt, or even more than that, officers thinking there was nowhere near enough to arrest Richard Allen, or they had much more on other theories that they disregarded. They put all that in writing. We read it. We dug into it very deep. If you guys want to check that out, it's on our page. It's on the Delphi playlist. So they did all of that. They called out lawyers, other law enforcement officers, and they've called out the judge multiple times through this process now to date. They are fighting for Richard Allen. I think it's important to note they're clearly not doing this for money. You could say they're doing it for fame, I guess, if you want to, but they're not doing it for money. The number one motivating factor seems to be at this point for these two lawyers, they feel an injustice is happening in this case. Now, I think lawyers think that in other cases that may not be true, or, some in the public may disagree with. But generally speaking, in this case, everything they've done to me leads me to believe they either think Richard Allen is innocent or being railroaded and his rights are being violated. So, what happened? Well, as we know, there was a leak of some crime scene photos and other confidential, protected information that should never have gotten out there. And it seems to be, even admittedly, the fault of these two lawyers. It seems from the reports that somebody stole documents from their office, leaked them. I've heard reports that the reason for the leak is to level the playing field because other things were released on court TV and they were inaccurate. And all of that to be said that nobody is saying is anything other than negligence of these lawyers. So, and I hear a lot of people saying this man is guilty, and that's fine if he is. Let's try him the right way, convict him the right way, and send him along with his punishment. But this is not how it should be in the system. And I think everybody that thinks this is how it should be because they believe he did it has never been in a situation that's felt out of their control, and there are supposed to be rules and people in place to protect them. And if all of them turn their back, I think they'd understand how, Richard Allen and a lot of other criminal defendants feel in this situation. Okay. So negligence on their part, we'll talk about the difference between gross negligence and negligence, but nobody seems to be accusing them of any intentional misconduct. Okay. Because I do think that would be different if they intentionally did something to violate a court order. They could be sanctioned. They could be held in contempt. They could be thrown in jail. A lot of things can happen if they did things intentionally. It doesn't seem like anybody is accusing them of that at this point. But there was some negligence in their part, that documents and pictures that were in their control were taken and leaked. People are saying that the leak was set up to get rid of these lawyers. Maybe so. I don't know. But after this leak happens, apparently there's a meeting back in the judge's chambers. Everybody was taken off guard. Richard Allen was not given any notice. The judge basically accepted their withdrawal so that they didn't get a public lashing in front of the cameras, and both lawyers withdrew. Kind of on the spot. One orally that was going to follow it up in writing later. So then it seems like maybe a change of heart, but the lawyers come back fighting, and now they filed a motion to recuse the judge based on what she did. They think she's biased. They think she forced them off the case inappropriately. And the judge disregarded it because they're no longer attorneys of record, because they withdrew from the case. And it sounds like she would deny it anyways. And I know it makes no sense, but a motion to recuse the judge, that judge is the one making that decision. So interesting. Shelby, yes, it seems like none of it was on record as far as we know. And the judge won't even listen to the motion. New counsel is appointed. Now, let's talk about new counsel for a second. I have seen that a video is circulating that this new counsel has commented on the case. I don't think there's anything wrong with commenting on the case. I think it could possibly be an issue, and maybe that person would not be the best choice to be appointed as the lawyer on the case. That being said, if Richard Allen had funds to hire his own attorney and he wanted to hire an attorney that commented on the case, there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing that precludes you from doing that. There's nothing that disqualifies you from handling a case that you've commented on publicly. You should probably get a waiver of confidentiality, but in this case, it was before he ever represented Richard Allen. So there's nothing wrong with that, but maybe not the best choice if he's been commenting on the case. Number two, I don't know if it's the same lawyer or another one of his lawyers is apparently social media friends with this judge. That's a report. I don't know if that's true. And there's nothing just objectively wrong with that. But when you add that context that these are Richard Allen's new lawyers that have been appointed by this judge, after the old lawyers basically called out everybody and nuked everybody in the system, including this judge, it starts to become a question. But then you add this on. And here's one of the documents we're going to look at. Might be the only one we look at. We'll see. So this is a letter from Richard Allen that says, "Dear Judge Gold, please accept this letter as confirmation that I have communicated with my attorney, Bradley Rozzi, regarding the circumstances regarding the leak of sensitive information in this case. I am aware that images of crime scene photos and other related documents were taken by a friend and former employee of Attorney Baldwin at Attorney Baldwin's office. I have discussed with Attorney Rozzi the potential impact that the distribution of these documents could have on my defense. Attorney Rozzi has also communicated to me that the prosecutor has requested that my attorneys be disqualified from representing me in this case. I do not want this to happen. I want Mr. Baldwin and Mr. Rozzi to continue to represent me until this case is resolved, one way or the other. I believe they are acting in a manner that is in my best interest. I appreciate your time and consideration in this matter." That is from the criminal defendant, Richard Allen himself. So I think at this point, we can see that Richard Allen wants these lawyers, but Richard Allen doesn't have any money. So you can't pick your own lawyer if you can't pay your own lawyer. And we have a situation now that it's court-appointed lawyers. However, Attorney Rozzi and Baldwin, I believe, both have filed notices that they would take this case pro bono for free as Richard Allen's attorney of choice. Therefore, it takes away the necessity of a court-appointed attorney trying to be appointed in this case, but instead choose his own lawyer, which is every person's right. And you only get appointed a lawyer if you cannot afford a lawyer on your own. And Richard Allen can afford free. And in the hearing today, it's been reported, I think I saw it on Defense Diaries, a Twitter page, that the judge basically said, "Sorry, I can't and won't allow these lawyers to represent you, even though you want them to represent you." She made a finding of gross negligence based on, I'm not sure what, because there was not an actual disqualification hearing, and will not allow them to serve as attorneys on the case. So instead, those other two court-appointed lawyers who maybe have some gray areas of whether or not they're the right people for the case, but I'm not saying they'll do a bad job. I'm sure they'll do the best job that they can. So now they are on the case. So what will change? Number one, we know without a doubt there's a voluminous amount of documents, pictures, and information and witnesses and testimony in this case to go through. So the January trial date, which it seems Rozzi and Baldwin were preparing for, and maybe we're going to be prepared to go to trial on that date. And when they are now off the case and new lawyers are on the case, it's already been kicked to October of next year, a full 12 months from now. Ava, this is a great point. No pending filings against them with the bar. If this is happening and it's so bad and it's gross negligence, the lawyers involved and the judge involved is almost required to file a bar complaint if it's that bad. And yet it doesn't seem like that's happening, which is very strange. Not that I would ever call for it or hope that people are saying it's Rosie, not Rozzi. Sorry. So it is very interesting that that doesn't happen. I'm not calling for any bar complaints. I don't, like when sticklers are filing bar complaints against each other, but if it's really this bad, seems like possibility that there could be a bar complaint, but there hasn't been yet. So the trial date has already changed, and that's a full year. Is that good for Richard Allen? Number two, will these lawyers try to recuse this judge. It seems like most people in the chat think this judge is not great for Richard Allen, but will these lawyers try to get her recused? If not, then that's a change. What are they going to do with this cult Odin ritualistic theory? What are they going to do with all of the potential other defendants or people that could have done this? With all of those theories, what are they going to do with the potentially shoddy investigation? What's going to happen with all of the arguments made by these prior attorneys that was so shocking, seemingly off the wall, but if proven, could blow major holes in this case for the state? And that's really the major issue. So some other issues are, if Richard Allen were to appeal this, what is his remedy? Well, first off, all that would probably realistically happen is a hearing to prove their disqualification, where the state would put on evidence and testimony that these two defense attorneys should be disqualified. The judge would make the finding that they should be disqualified, and then they would be disqualified. So I'm not really sure what remedy Richard Allen has. He seems to, in that letter, waive this issue. And let's talk about what that looks like. Are defendants allowed to waive issues with lawyers and choose even a bad lawyer to represent them? There have been cases where clients have tried to waive conflict. And I was talking to my dad about this. I know some people ask, what does my dad think about this? Where clients have tried to waive conflicts and hire an attorney, and the judge has not accepted those waivers. Client goes to trial, loses. They try to appeal it on that issue, and they're, I think, always unsuccessful. Now, usually those conflicts show that there would be some detriment to the defense, and we want him to have a fair trial, the best shot, the best crack at it. But in this case, while releasing of these photos and sensitive material is gruesome and horrible and sad and should never have happened, I'm not really sure how it hurts his defense. They're going to agree it's gruesome. They're going to put these photos in to prove their theory of it being a ritualistic scene. So from my perspective, I don't see how this hurts his defense at all. They also didn't, get drunk and show that they're incompetent or do something like that. Frankly, what happened to them could theoretically happen to anybody. If a friend or somebody with access to your office wants to go steal something and sell it, are you literally supposed to keep everything under lock and key? I mean, theoretically on your computer, everything's password protected, encrypted, things like that. But is this going to be a reason that lawyers are going to be kicked off cases now left and right if somehow someone goes rogue, steals a document, and leaks it? And my dad was saying how he has never really heard of this happening in a case to this level. And I'm wondering if the high-profile nature, the eyes, the money involved in the press and the cameras and the leaks is getting more and more prevalent with today's age of social media, true crime, all of the interest in this case. We're seeing it with Murdoch and the Miss Becky stuff, which, by the way, they actually filed their motion for new trial and asked for an evidentiary hearing. We're going to read that right after this. It's going to premiere. You're going to redirect to it right after this. But again, the accusation is that Miss Becky was doing this for promotion, for money, for a book deal, to go on these shows and do interviews. Jen said these lawyers have 50 years of experience with a flawless record, basically. The result is terrible. Somebody's saying, I'm not sure how terrible it is. John said, the result is terrible that those pictures got out. But as far as his defense goes, it's not like it's really hurt his defense or changed anything. So when that went up on appeal, that the judge did not allow criminal defendants to waive certain conflicts, it ended up coming back saying, too bad. Not going to do this over again. And in this case, especially if his new counsel is competent and they go to trial and they lose, and he says, well, I think these other lawyers would have been better, it's very unlikely that that would be enough for him to win an appeal, as unfair as that sounds. If anything, they'd force the judge to put some findings on the record that they were disqualified and out. To me, it's just not a good look and not how things should move. Lisa, welcome. I am going to hit some of your questions now. Sue, Dan Markell, we are going to be doing an update tomorrow on that trial. A lot of recordings came in today. Wendy W. Has the judge overstepped her bounds? The problem with this is, and again, with the lack of transparency, is I don't know everything. So I don't want to say the judge made the wrong call because maybe she knows things that we don't. Maybe it is the right call that they should be disqualified. I would appreciate a record of that so everybody knows what's going on. But I would always err on the side of letting a criminal defendant go down with his choices. And if he wants to choose a bad lawyer, even put on the record that he's going to waive any ineffective assistance of counsel or things like that, which they can do. You waive that stuff, let him pick his team, and he can win or lose with his guys. I don't see why we wouldn't do that unless we thought they were throwing the case. T-Trees, Peter, honest question. Do you agree that when the court or legal shenanigans overshadow the crime itself, is there even a chance at justice with legal integrity? Yes, I do think there is a chance of legal integrity, and that's what I hope the jury system can help fix. I hope prosecutors do the right thing and seek justice, not just convictions. Same with law enforcement. So I do think there still is a chance, even when some shenanigans are happening and even overshadow the case sometimes. I'm still hopeful in our system. And I think sometimes that rings true and sometimes, unfortunately, it does not. Future said petition to get Papatia's take on this. Yeah, maybe we'll bring him in the future and talk about this case, but I have talked to him about it a little bit. Ashley, it can be appealed, but I don't think the remedies are really what people would expect them to be, like we've kind of talked about. Lady Los Andra, judge's decision, coerced or justified? Coerced by who? I mean, I don't know. Are you saying maybe the Odinite thing rises to this level? I don't know. A lot of people asking, can he appeal the judge's decision? We've gone through that. Yes, he can, but I'm not sure the remedy would really help him or get him what he wants, which is these two lawyers representing him for free. Alley Cat, does the judge have to allow this? No, it's a judicial decision. Chris K. Peter, do you think Attorney Baldwin should withdraw because it happened in his office under his watch? I think it's possible if they wanted to do something like that where just Baldwin withdraws, it was outside of Rosie's control, and therefore it was Baldwin's issue and not Rosie. So maybe that would be a way to split the baby, but doesn't seem like that's going to fly. Elizabeth, can a bar complaint be made against the judge, or is it just for recusal? Yes, you can make a bar complaint against the judge, and the motion for recusal, you can do a recusal without a bar complaint because, again, a judge doesn't have to be doing something wrong in order to be recused from the case. And not liking a judge's decision is usually not appropriate for a bar complaint. But if you think she's biased against your client or there's some kind of conflict that she can't waive or get over, then recusal may be appropriate. True crime with Marv. So can they be disqualified without a hearing? Well, they just were. The question is that appropriate? And I would say no. I think there needs to be a hearing, maybe some evidence and testimony, and then findings on the record to disqualify these attorneys. That would be the appropriate and legal way to make sure due process is in place, especially because Richard Allen admittedly didn't have notice of this, didn't know what was going on necessarily. Maybe he doesn't understand why this stuff is happening, and the judge needs to make sure he does. Elizabeth, what gets a lawyer disqualified besides blatantly breaking the law or not having credentials? But if a client wants them, what can make them disqualified? It's a great question. And there's not really a bright line rule. But in this situation, the judge is saying their gross negligence disqualifies them from handling this case. What makes that true or false is arguable, and an appellate court could potentially make that decision. But if he's got competent counsel appointed, it's unlikely they're going to let him go back and do this trial all over again because of this decision. And there is some judicial discretion in this process. I believe it's not a judge's position to pick the lawyer for a criminal defendant who has the ability to pick his lawyer on his own. And I just can't ever imagine a judge doing this to a wealthy criminal defendant who chooses his high-priced lawyer he's going to pay out of pocket. Net woman just dropping in and going wild here. Thank you for this super chat. It is kind of crazy that even from the start, the judge Denier recused himself and had sealed the documents out of fear for family. Then they kept moving Allen around to different jails without even talking to a lawyer to even know his charges. By doing this, they ticked his time away. Lots of moving parts in this one for sure. And then you look at his condition, regardless of the Odin theory or not. You want to move it back 5 minutes? Can you just move it back 5 minutes? We're going to move the Murdoch premiere back 5 minutes. It really seems actually do 540. We'll move it to 540 because there's a couple questions here and stuff still I want to talk about. His condition is obviously concerning, and the amount of stuff to get through is concerning. The amount of stuff that that was not turned over to them is concerning. Will there be a Franks hearing? To me, this case makes me feel so uneasy, and it's such a heinous crime, and people want justice for these victims so bad, and I'm included in the people that want justice for these victims so bad, but it has to be the right way, or we're just piling wrongs on top of each other, and we're adding victims to the list. And so I think this point is well taken that from the start, this has not been great. And it seemed like, at least with Rosie and Baldwin, they were going to do their best, put all this information in front of the jury, let the jury sift through it, and let the jury make a call. And if they convict Richard Allen, then at least we know it seemed like somebody was really fighting for him. Because there's nothing worse. And we have watched trials together on this channel where it looks like the lawyer is doing absolutely zero fighting, no zealous representation for their clients. And it's a sad thing to watch. Now, sometimes we can understand why, sometimes we can't. Nirvana. The ex-defense lawyers will have a public story soon. And it seems like Richard Allen is working with them, and maybe he'll waive his confidentiality. Maybe this thing is really going to be a stepping stone to shine a light on all of the issues that are going on here. I think they have shown they're not afraid to publicly say what they believe to be true and unfair based on the filings they made in this case. Lady Law Sandra, what factors suggest the possibility of coercion, and what implications does it have for overall fairness of the trial? What secrets lie beneath the surface? We don't know a lot of these answers. We really don't know. And there's no way to tell. It's not like a judge is going to say, oh, somebody forced me to do this. And there's at least something that makes sense. There was a major, major problem that happened under their watch. But when we say somebody's stealing something, I'm picturing I've got 16 employees here. If one of them wanted to steal a document and leak it, it's possible. They have access to them every day. We trust people to open our files and work with us on cases for all of our clients. So if one of them went rogue, does that mean I'm disqualified from that case? Maybe, according to this judge. Would that be gross negligence to let my employees work on the files that they're hired for, and my clients know I have employees that work on these files? Would that be gross negligence? Or is there more to this story? Were they talking with this person and sharing these documents with them, saying, what do you think about this? Give me your take on that. And then somebody leaked the photo? Or what if they said it wouldn't be the worst thing if this photo got leaked, not thinking they were going to leak it? But that's grossly negligent actions potentially. So what were their actions? How bad was it? I think that's a good question. Netwoman also gifted 50 memberships. Absolutely wild. And what's cool is this gives me the opportunity to say, starting tomorrow, November 1st, we are adding a couple new member benefits. We are adding specifically Discord channels for members only focusing on the cases we're going to focus on. I'm going to jump in there. Some other members of the team are going to jump in there, talk to you guys about these cases. We're going to try to ramp up that Discord. We're doing our best with it. It'll be alive and around as long as we can make it work. So we're adding that. We're also adding brand new emojis and fun things for you guys. We were talking today about, some pickleball or golf emojis and things like that. So some new fun things starting November 1st for all of the members that just got gifted memberships and all the ones that have been gifted memberships in the past from Netwoman. So thank you so much for that. And then we also have under brand our winner for this ugly shirt. It is going to Kristen Matheny 9899, who has two sons attending the University of Illinois. And I like these colors more when I think that they're the University of Illinois Fighting Illini colors, even Chicago Bears colors that she mentions here. So email us, lawyeryounknow@gmail.com, to claim this shirt. All right. I've got about 5 more minutes for questions, and then we've got to sign off, and I've got to go get to some trick-or-treating and some Halloween parties and things like that. I'm sure you guys all will too. Let me know in the chat, right in the chat right now or in the comments if you're watching this later. What are you dressing up as, or your kids or your grandkids or anybody you're hanging out with? What are you dressing up for as Halloween tonight if you are, in fact, dressing up? How do I get this off? There we go. All right. Donna, neither do I, but I think I'm going to learn it with you. Discord, I guess, is where we chat about cases. I'm honestly not positive. I've never used it before. So we'll see if we can use it together. Nirvana, to leak those kind of photos is just wrong on so many levels. I agree. And that's why I'm saying let's not go full bore against the judge or against any of these decisions, because I personally, I would say I don't know all the details. So I think we need to try to figure out all the details before we really jump to what we think should happen in this case. But I do want to know your all thoughts about whether judges just generally should be able to not allow criminal defendants to choose lawyers that they want. Right? I don't think they should be able to choose, I shouldn't be able to choose John to be my lawyer, who's not a lawyer and doesn't know what he's doing. And then I can have ineffective assistance of counsel claims. I don't think we should go that far, but qualified lawyers, if they want to choose and they want to work the case pro bono, to me, it's a big reach to not allow that. Renity, at what point can charges be dismissed because of inappropriate conduct of the court? Not anytime soon, because this court would be the one to make that decision. Cherry, if Darrell Brooks was allowed to represent himself, I don't see how the judge can deny his chosen counsel, right? I mean, wouldn't we rather him choose these two guys than choose to represent himself, which legally speaking, he would be able to do at this point? Right now, he could do that if he wanted to. It just is so crazy. Discord is too much work. Well, you don't have to use it. All right, I see a lot of costumes coming through here. An inflatable ostrich rider, a bunny and a carrot, a cat. Snow in Chicago today. My kids are going to be sweating in their Halloween costumes, and you guys are going to have jackets over or under yours. That's pretty funny. Lady Lysandra dressing up as Lady Justice. Anime characters. What else we got? Belle from Beauty and the Beast. What is Discord? We'll do a post about what Discord is and how to use it and stuff eventually. Michelle, question, doesn't this violate a Sixth Amendment right? Well, Michelle, that is a great question. And I've talked about this with my dad in other videos. You don't have a right to the best counsel or any counsel. You have a right to competent counsel. And this judge, I think, can very easily say she has appointed competent counsel. And it really gets into where you think the rights are. I think if it's based on what we know now, yes, I think this violates his Sixth Amendment right. I think he should be able to pick his counsel, especially if he can afford them, which he can afford pro bono work by these lawyers. Sleuthy Goosey thinks the judge should not be interfering. Yeah, I don't think the judge should get involved in you picking your lawyer. Okay, we're about at the end here. Yeah, your own choosing as long as you can afford that lawyer, right? The best lawyer you can afford. That's what you should have the right to, in my opinion. Oof, chat's flying here. Patty Justice has also joined the membership crew. I am dressing up as this Beetlejuice shirt, following my kids around trick or treating. That's as much as I've got tonight. Jenny said, if these two lawyers believe their theory so much that they're offering to work for free, that tells me there is something to it. It is pretty wild. It is pretty wild. I feel bad. I feel like we might not get a lot of answers in this situation that we want, that we think Richard Allen is entitled to. But that's all we got for this video. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it. Hopefully you learned something. Stick around now and we can talk about Murdoch's motion for new trial, what the legal standard is, whether we think he's going to win that, whether we think he's going to get an evidentiary hearing on the next video. That's all we got for this time. I'm out of here. Thanks for watching another episode of The Lawyer You Know. If you enjoyed this episode, please hit the thumbs up and share with your friends who might be interested here on YouTube. And of course, don't forget to subscribe to our channel. You can also follow us on all social media, Twitter, Facebook, TikTok, at Lawyer You Know. But on Instagram, we are still at Tragos Law. So look us up on there. And don't forget to listen to the Lawyer You Know podcast, available on all major podcast platforms. If you have a case you want to talk to us about, if it's a personal injury case, wrongful death, catastrophic injury, car accident, or slip and fall case, please email us, lawyeryouknow@gmail.com. Of course, all of these links I just mentioned are included in the description below on this episode and every episode. So until next time, this is Peter Tragos, the Lawyer You Know.